All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining today. I'm Barbara Coffey, Director of Economic Initiatives for the City of Tucson. And hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday. So today we're putting the spotlight on our Economic and Workforce Development Grant Program that the city has offered since 2012. You'll hear details on the program goals and the upcoming call for applications, in addition to some highlights and program successes from current grantees. We'll take questions as we go, so feel free to use the chat or the Q&A function for that purpose. We'll record the session and make it available as well for everyone who wants to watch again or share with others or watch for the first time. You can find links to all our previous webinars at connecttucson.com. So let's get started. Amanda Bruno is a project manager in our Office of Economic Initiatives here at the City of Tucson. She focuses primarily on business retention and expansion and small business support. A native New Yorker, Amanda moved to Tucson in 2011 to attend the University of Arizona, where she completed her bachelor's degree in cultural anthropology and her master's degree in public administration. She earned her Arizona Economic Development Professional, the AZED Pro, in 2021 from the Arizona Association for Economic Development, where she now serves on the board of directors. Amanda is an alumna of Greater Tucson Leadership, former board member as well of Tucson Young Professionals, and most recently was selected as a 2021 40 Under 40 honoree by the Tucson Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Arizona Daily Star. So welcome, Amanda, and congratulations. I think you're in good company. You're going to hear about that later as well with your award-winning accolades there. So I'll let you get us started, Amanda, and share a little bit about our program and what people can expect and what they've actually seen. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful, thank you. So I will share my screen. I've got a few slides. And then Barbara, are we doing questions after it all or just as they come in?
Great. I'll have people, if they would like to ask questions or pose those in the chat or the Q&A, they can, and I'll help field that so you don't have to worry. And we'll just see if we pepper them in, or we'll also take some questions at the end.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Well, I will just get into it here. So I'll go through some of our current grantees and some of the cool things they've been doing in town and just give sort of an overview of what the program is. So in 2012, Mayor and Council allocated some money for special events and workforce and economic development grants. And so the purpose of the grants in workforce and economic development are to support small businesses by providing technical assistance and resources to medium-sized companies and to support job training and education programs for youth and adults. And to just increase levels in local workforce and availability of different skill sets. And for the special events, we're looking to increase the capacity and the reach of those events and the overall economic impact in the community. So our grants run on 2-year cycles. So we're in the middle of one right now. And so the information about these ones were from fiscal year 2020. So Startup Tucson, for example, which I will of course defer to Liz to talk more about that later. But they, for their Startup Fundamentals program, they set a goal of having 200 attendees. They had 450. They set a goal of having 100 new businesses started. They had 105. So just exceeding the goals there with the assistance of some of these grants. And similar with the YWCA and their Women's Business Center for some of their job training programs, they've got 576 clients served was their goal. They served over 700. And they set a goal of 32 business plans. They had over 50. So it's really exciting for us to see, even those goals, you know, they're very ambitious, and seeing them exceeded is really exciting. Job training, this is an organization who had a workforce development grant for adults. So they had set a goal of increasing their wage, their post-training wage to $18.50 an hour. And what it actually went up to was $24.30 an hour. And 80% of their graduates would attain an entry-level job. That was their goal. 89% attain an entry-level job with a starting wage of at least $17.19, an average wage, I'm sorry.
Amanda, is that a slide we're missing, or did you need to advance? Are you showing us some great stats?
Is it not showing up? I'm on Job Path right now.
Select we have not, I'm still on your main slide.
Oh, no.
That's all right.
Huh.
If you want to be in view mode, you can do that.
Let's see.
I know. No worries, but we don't want to miss all that good information.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of great numbers there, and I think it really makes the point of what the program is all about. So let's take a look.
Let's see. Maybe I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me re-share.
There you go.
Oh, can you see it now?
Yes. Now you're on the job training adults slide.
Okay.
And if you want to back up to slide
Yeah.
2.
Okay, that makes more sense. So can you see Startup Tucson and YWCA?
I see Job Path and Literacy Connects.
What the heck?
I know.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I know there's a lot of good information to pack in, but I love how each of our organizations work so hard to set the goals. And so to see them attain and even exceed those goals is fascinating and just exactly what we're looking for. So I want everyone to see that.
Yeah. Okay, how's that? Can you see?
Yes, we're working better there.
Okay, got it. All right. Okay, so yes, a couple of examples of our job training for adults. So Literacy Connects, another really good one. So their goal, they were hoping that 70% of students would complete at least 12 or more hours toward the program. Over 92% of them did that. 15 students would complete their job success course, 25 of them did. So really well done there. Goodwill, they have been a long time participant in this program. For their youth training, job training program, they wanted 300 unduplicated youth to take advantage of the program. They got over 556 participants. Similarly, they wanted 60% high school completion rate or GED, and they got 72%. So really, really exciting stuff. Our special events. So COVID obviously threw a little bit of these off, but all of these organizations adapted really well. 10 West, the pitch festival was very successful. They had over 1,000 people in attendance with 10 markets outside of Arizona was the goal. 326 unique cities were represented. So that was really cool. Tucson Meet Yourself, of course, everyone's familiar with them. Another participant in this program for several years. They had a goal of 15,000 attendees, over 17,000 attended. They were also able to develop 6 new programs in 2020, despite COVID challenges. And Barbia Williams Performing Company is a fairly new participant for us. They wanted 500 people to attend. With COVID, they still had 159 people attend their programs as they switched to virtual. And so that was exciting for them as a new participant in our program to go on and put a successful program on. So our next cycle, it's a 2-year cycle. And so the event will occur in fiscal year 23 and will be renewed upon mayor and council approval for fiscal year 24 under the same terms. The cycle will open in February and it will close in mid-April for special events and for workforce development programs. And so for each of them, let me go back because I think that was one of my slides that didn't show. For each of them, they've got different goals and metrics that we want to look at. But for economic and workforce development programs, this is for skills and job training programs for youth and adults. And then special events are for anything that will increase tourism and have an economic impact in the community. I think that's kind of everything I wanted to cover. I just wanted to put it on everyone's radar that this is going to be opening up pretty soon for the upcoming cycle in February. It will stay open until mid-April. And I think that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions about the program at all.
Excellent. No, I appreciate that. And, you know, it's been, it's really awesome to be able to work with the number of organizations in our community already doing much of this work, right? And I think that's where our Economic and Workforce Development Grant Program comes in to help supplement the opportunity to help scale some of these programs, to add more funding so that there can be more bandwidth with everything that they're already doing. So I think that's what's exciting, what you're going to hear about today from our guests. And so I think when we get into this may again spur more thoughts and questions from those who are listening in. So I'll go ahead and introduce our current grantees that are joining us for this conversation today. We have Danny Nee, Executive Director of Community Investment Corporation with 2 decades of experience in public and nonprofit sectors. Danny has a BA from Johns Hopkins University and master's degrees in city and regional planning from Rutgers University and business administration from the University of Arizona's Eller College of Business. He has a wide array of community development and affordable housing experience through his work at the Tucson Urban League and Habitat for Humanity in Tucson, organizations where he also served terms as interim director. Danny was a middle school teacher as well, and that didn't stop him early in his career. He's also been an entrepreneur in his own right as co-founder of Single Focus Web, a web development company he started with his wife. He was also named one of Tucson's 40 under 40 back in 2007. Now, Liz Pocock is with us. She's the CEO of Startup Tucson and the 10 West Impact Festival. She has over 10 years of experience in economic development, community building, and nonprofit organizational management. As CEO, Liz has helped lead Startup Tucson in serving over 2,500 entrepreneurs a year, grown 10 West to over 14,000 attendees in 2019. She's helped the organization secure local, state, and federal grant funding and has also led Startup Tucson to be recognized for several national awards in their support of regional entrepreneurship and the community. She's licensed in Arizona with her Juris Doctorate from University of Arizona and is now a teacher there as an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship. Outside of Startup Tucson, Liz is the vice chair of the Downtown Tucson Partnership Board, serves on the Tucson Convention Center Commission, and chairs the Tucson Innovation Partnership. She's also a trained mediator, Google Women Tech Maker, member of SBDC and Pima Community College Business Advisory Groups, as well as a commercialization partner for Tech Launch Arizona. She's also, you're going to see a theme here, Tucson 40 under 40 recipient in 2019 and was also the 2020 Tucson Women of Influence Rising Star winner. So there you go. All of you with your accolades, all in good company. I am honored to be part of this mix and just to moderate this conversation. So I really wanted to give each of you an opportunity to start us off and share about the current programs you're conducting that are funded in part by our Economic and Workforce Development Grant Program. You know, what's been your experience? What have you seen are the impacts? I know we'll start with Danny. You are one of our newer grantees with the Tucson IT Skills Alliance. So maybe give us a perspective about how that has been going, how you put that together and get us started.
Sure. First, I want to start out by saying, like, I was Tucson 40 under 40 in the aughts. Everybody else is like 2019, 2021. It's clear that they've really upped what you need to do to be able to get that compared to when I was 40.
Oh, 7, Danny.
Yeah, it's back in the day. So, you know, we are a local economic development nonprofit, and I think as part of that, we focus really on access to the economy. We do that through home ownership, we do it through entrepreneurship, and we do it through education. And education has been the space that we've been trying to work a little bit harder on. We've had longer standing programs in the other 2 areas. And so what was great about this is it gave us an opportunity to dip our toe into something that we really hadn't done a lot of before. Job creation is a big part of, you know, Barbara and Amanda, I know, working at the Office of Economic Initiatives. Obviously, job creation is a big deal. And so we have this opportunity to actually partner with a group, Transmosis, as well as actually 2 different partners. We have Transmosis and we have Go for Vertical, who are helping us in cybersecurity training. And so some statistics about that and why it is that we saw the opportunity and thought this was a good idea is that the number of unfilled cybersecurity jobs grew 350% over the last 8 years, from 1 million positions in 2013 to 3.5 million in 2021. Also, information security analyst is projected to be the 10th fastest growing occupation over the next decade, with a growth rate of 31% as compared to projected growth rates of 4% for all jobs, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And so this, applying for this, we got to partner with somebody who's already done this work. which I think is, Liz will tell you, Startup Tucson and CIC, we partner on a lot of things, and it's wonderful to be able to go to the experts, to grab the experts at what you're doing, and sort of, have somebody who already knows what they're doing, but then bring them into the local context, because everywhere you do this, I do think it's a little bit different. And we've learned a lot in this process. I think in the first time through, we had sort of a very modest goals in terms of enrolling basically 8 people to do this. It's paid for cybersecurity. There's certifications and tests that get paid for. And we went about it in such a way of like, okay, we're gonna get great 8 great people to do this. And what we found through the first cohort is that there was some attrition that we hadn't really planned for. And so we are now and I really do love, I'm just gonna state this as a nonprofit guy, I do love multi-year grants. You don't have to go and find that new funding or replace that funding every year. But B, it also gives you this opportunity to learn as you go. And so we're a place who we actually, with all those great numbers, we fell slightly short of what we wanted to do in our first cohort, but we came up very quickly with a plan. We actually have enrolled 23 people. We have a 90-day period in which they're going to basically stay in the program. If people drop off, we'll still be able to then hit our numbers, and we're working on fundraising to pay for those that may not be able to be paid for through the grant. And again, I think there is something about when you have a program that you can have funded over multiple years, you can find other funding, you can learn lessons, because no matter what anybody wants to say, it is hard to start new things. I always say that we do our work with an incredible amount of humility. We try to do it the best we can, but we're always open to learning. And we've learned as we've gone. In the second round, Go for Vertical, what's pretty neat, in addition to having a cyber security expert, and then you have, on our end, I think we're the nonprofit expert, and these job training programs are really focused on people of lower incomes. And that's sort of our jam. That's where we work. And then we have this other group, Go for Vertical, who they actually work in the tech development space. And so they're groups that they actually help like new tech startups get going. And so on some level, they're the employer side. They help with the employer side of what we're looking at. And I think that's a really good sort of triad, the 3 legs of this stool. And we're really hopeful. We just got started, just launched that 90-day period that we're of the second cohort, and we're really looking forward to what's going on. I will also say that working with the city has been really easy in this piece. And I do say that I have been working for 20 years, and it is not always easy working for government with grants, and it has been really great. It's pretty straightforward. I think, setting the goals and holding ourselves to the goals. It's been a pleasure to work with Barbara and Amanda. So I do want to give a shout.
You put him on screen and he'll say all of these nice things. No, that's fantastic. No, we want it to be easy, right? That's the key. And we want local organizations in our community to not be nervous about partnering with the city or local government, right? To do some of these things. We want you to take some chances, and that's where this comes in. It helps you, it helps everyone do a little bit of risk aversion when we're launching new programs. But I want you to just for a minute, Danny, talk about, some might say, well, this is really, some of the programs that you're putting together like this that are new and that are more sort of boot camp or, oriented, they're short term, but they're removing barriers. They're alternatives to other ways of gaining this training, right? I mean,
Yes.
We're trying to make them low or no cost because we know that removes a very important barrier. But how important is that sort of non-traditional education option?
I think it's incredibly important. I mean, it's one of these things that this will always be, and both isn't enough when you say both and. It's all these approaches, and it's reaching people kind of wherever they are. So we've been talking with JTED, the Joint Technical Education District, and that's more traditional, like in terms of going through school, high school aged, and right afterwards. This is somebody who anywhere along their career path and looking to change. I think it's really important to provide different options. Again, I will say somebody who works in nonprofit and maybe it's just a comparison of it, but we're always looking like, how do we do workshops on weekends? How do we do at night because people work? How do we, for whatever it is, whatever nonprofit service you're providing, how do you provide it in a way where the people who need it can reach it? And so this type of boot camp where people can do it on their own, I think it's important to provide those opportunities. There's a lot, and again, I'm a nonprofit guy. I make no bones about it, won't apologize for it. And in that way, what I mean is people don't understand how hard being poor and low income and under-resourced is. It's incredibly time consuming. It's not, you don't just get to take off work to do training. You're trying to do that in between raising a family and between all the other things that life has. So I think it's incredibly important to provide access to this type of job training in a variety of formats and a variety of ways.
Awesome. That's great. Fantastic. So Liz, talk a little bit about what Startup Tucson is working on that's helped facilitated by our program. I know you've got a couple of different things. Tell us.
Yes. So Startup Tucson has the privilege of having 3 contracts with the city. So we have a grant under the Small Business Development Support Program. This is actually, we're in our 3rd life cycle of that program with the city. So we've received that grant for 3 different funding cycles. And then we have a special events grant with the city. We're in the 2nd life cycle of that to support 10 West and IDEA funding. And then a new program that we have during this grant cycle was our CS Accelerator program, and that's under the long-term workforce development. And so I echo Danny, it's been amazing to work with the city, and I think for Startup Tucson, the city's funding has both allowed us to kind of expand the imprint of some of our core programming. To Amanda's point, we've been able to deliver to so many more people with support from the city for our Startup Fundamental series, and that's really the cornerstone of all of our work. Everything that we do with entrepreneurs is built off of fundamentals, and the city really helped us. The city's support really helped us grow that program over time. Like I said, we've had support for that core programming for the last 6 years, and we've been able to use fundamentals to go out and seek federal dollars, and we've been able to bring a lot of federal funding to support entrepreneurs because of the city grant. So we reference the city grant and the fundamentals program in every single application we do anywhere for grant funding. And so the city's support in kind of piloting that and getting it up and going has been really influential for us. And I think what's important when we think about the same that Danny is talking about for workforce training, for entrepreneurship support, when you're first getting a business started, you do not have the money. All the money that you have needs to be going right back into your business to, hire your first employee, to buy your supplies, to cover shipping, all of your cost of goods, to do your marketing, to file your taxes. I mean, all of that stuff needs to go right back into your business. And it's so critical for businesses at the beginning to be able to bootstrap and save every penny. And so you're doing all that as a founder, and then you also don't know what you're doing as a founder. And so you need the support of somebody to help you make those decisions and help you eliminate some of that risk as you're first getting going. And that's what our fundamentals programming does. And so we've been really grateful for the city and the support of that program. And then our special events, it's been great to work with the city of Tucson on 10 West and the development of what that is for our community. Bringing more people here, attracting people from outside the region to see Tucson, to see what's great about Tucson. We had to pivot that event entirely online, like a lot of our other partners did this last year. And the city was really supportive of us as we went through that journey and learning how to do simultaneous programming and switch things around with oh my gosh, all the tech that went into it. But it was really cool for idea funding in particular, the pitch competition. We had, like Amanda said, tons of people from across the country tune in to see some of our entrepreneurs. And they had a lot of great follow-up. So we're looking at how we keep some of those hybrid pieces moving forward. And that's been really interesting with the event side of stuff. And then our CS Accelerator, was a pilot. We've been able, again, to leverage the city's funding to be able to find some additional support from some other foundations and be able to support. We've discovered, to Danny's point, we've learned some lessons along the way. The CS Accelerator is, so Danny is working on the IT side of career services. What we realized in our community is that our entrepreneurs and some of our larger businesses are missing a lot of our tech talent. So we don't have we haven't yet built up a big community of people that can code and that have computer science background. And it can be a really intimidating career to start. So there's a boot camp at U of A, but it's pretty expensive and you have to commit to it all the way. And, PIMA has a program. It's starting to have more programs now with their centers of excellence. But again, you have to decide that you want to do a full-time thing, and that can be really challenging especially if you haven't had as much exposure to technology. And so the computer science CS squared is what it's called now. So it's computer science plus career services. And the goal really is to help people. It's an entry-level program. It's free. You're kind of getting you're dipping your toe in the water and you're discovering, is coding really for you? And so we have a new round open right now. Every round we've opened for applications we've had overwhelming number of people. So you can see that there's a need here in the community. We added an element to our application process this time where you actually go on and it's called a scratch project. So you self-code a little thing, and watching people's scratch projects come in and seeing how interested they are in participating in the program and learning these skills has just been really exciting. So we're going to start another cohort this January. And we've had a number of people, having a computer was a requirement of our program, but we actually just got a matching donation today so that if there's somebody that doesn't have a laptop and that's the barrier, that we can actually help support them in that part of the journey. So there's been a lot of learnings, but I think these grants are really important for our community. I've said it before on other calls when Barbara was doing the new planning with the consultant. I think the city grants are a really great opportunity for organizations in Tucson to get some of the seed funding to start new projects that we work the closest with whoever it is we're working with. So us with entrepreneurs, Danny with entrepreneurs, but everybody else I'm sure on this call working with different populations here in Tucson, and you see the needs most directly. And so the city just creates this opportunity for us to go say what it is that we think is missing, and then to kind of provide some pilot funding for us to get those up and off the ground. And I think without the support from the city for some of these smaller programs that we know are needed, we can't then go get the big grants. Because if you don't have the baseline data to say, look, we did it and it works, and we did it for 20 people, and here's how well it worked for 20 people. Now, if you give me more money, we can do it for 100 people or 200 people. There's not pilot federal funding grants out there for this stuff. So the city's support of our programs and these sorts of programs for the community, I think, is really, really important for us working directly with the people we all are trying to serve.
I think that's an excellent point. The both of you talk about how you leverage this funding, right? So that you can do what you need to do. But then to your point, Liz, it makes you more competitive going after other grant funding opportunities. And I think that's a key piece, a key takeaway for folks listening in if they're thinking about what they might be able to do with a program like this. What I also heard both of you say is just how great it is to watch the results, right? To enable someone to really change their life, right? To make a small commitment in a program that really is going to have a significant impact on their earning potential or the lives of their families, their future, and even sets them up. I always tell this to our education partners as well, that sets them up as future learners in those more academic settings too. And so it is a stepping stone. I mean, can you share were there some highlights or or moments where you saw someone, that light bulb went off and they saw they could code, they saw they could, fulfill on something? I mean, what was that like? Any examples?
Yeah, I mean, we had a woman in our program I actually love this because she got partway through this certification, and what she realized was, I want to do more than just what we were doing. And so while that did not help our outcomes in terms of, because she wound up finishing the last one, what we wound up doing is finding a different program where she wanted to go deeper. And so it was that piece of like, oh, I don't just want to do this. I actually want to go further with what I'm doing. And I do think those are the types of things, like, you don't always know until you get into it. I will say, I think this is, and I mean this from an investment side too, from the city, it is a relatively low cost, low risk, and high return way to invest funding. And like Liz and I will both tell you, sure, we'd love it if you would drop $500,000 on us every other week for stuff that we want to do. We would spend it really well. But the point being is that some of these smaller grants, and it's not like super small, but these grants are, they're relatively low risk and high return from what we've seen. Ours, we have $76,000 over 2 years, and we're going to see probably 20 people total that will have these new skills that will go on to higher paying jobs. That actually, the return over time is going to be immense on that. Quite honestly, when you think of $76,000, the one person who wants to go deeper and I think is going to really get into this, that might cover that all. What she winds up doing pretty quickly in her career, and that's the type of economic development I think that we want to see. And I don't mean to take shots at, hey, trying to get Amazon in and trying to get, all the different businesses in, and we need people to work at those businesses, but helping the people that live in our community gain the skills that they need to succeed. I'm a huge proponent.
No, it makes a tremendous difference when you see someone that might have been working a $12 or $15 an hour job, and then they now have a certification in something or some new training, and they're now employable at an annual salary with benefits that might be $50,000 to $60,000 a year, right? So it is impactful, and we've seen it happen time and again. Liz, any stories that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some amazing entrepreneurship happening during the pandemic. I think we saw increased need for entrepreneurship training, both by people that they chose to leave positions because they, had lifestyle changes or made different decisions about things during COVID and decided, if this is how that's going to be, I want to go ahead and do that thing I've always been thinking about doing. We also saw a number of people enter entrepreneurship out of necessity. And I think we didn't know what was going to happen when COVID started. Like we were a heavily events focused in-person organization. And we moved everything online, and had at some things, we didn't have any drop off in program attendance in terms of trainings. We actually were fuller than ever because people were looking for that training and that backbone and that community to help build the projects they were working on. We saw people come up with COVID specific responses in the early days of the pandemic. So things to help enable local produce delivery, things to help enable, different pickups and e-commerce. We saw a lot of entrepreneurs that took programming 2 years ago that thought everything was good, and then their entire business models had to change because they could no longer do anything in person, come back to us to relearn and rethink about how they would do things online. And I think you just saw a lot of resilience come out of our community, and a lot of really cool businesses, food businesses, e-commerce businesses, product businesses, people that are looking to start nonprofits. I mean, we just saw a lot of really cool entrepreneurship happening.
That's awesome. And you think about the work that went into making that change to virtual. We all went through that. What do you think is going to stay from what we've learned with the technology and offering virtual trainings? Do you think that there will always be a piece of that? Does that make us more accessible as well? How will it play out?
Yeah. So we're going to keep a number of things online, and then we're going to do hybrid for some stuff. So elements of 10 West and ID funding will probably remain hybrid because we just got such a better exposure rate for some of our local entrepreneurs that we don't want to like lose that. We realized, we love downtown, but not everybody loves downtown. So having the ability to do some of our startup coffees and our other, we call them kind of on-ramps, before you sign up for programming, if you just kind of want to check it out and you're not sure yet if this community is right for you, we do a number of free events to let you kind of see how it is. We used to do all those in person, but not everybody wanted to come to Startup Coffee, downtown every Wednesday. And so we are potentially leaving that one online indefinitely because we've seen just such engagement from some of our surrounding communities that do need the support because they don't have a Startup Tucson or an organization that's providing entrepreneurship support. So we're experimenting with which modes make more sense for which classes. Right now we have done our fundamentals back in person, but we're still doing the 101. So fundamentals is 5 classes and a graduation. 101 is offered monthly, so you can always take a 101 to get started. Once you take 101, you can enter our free network or free membership program, and then you can schedule time with our team up as much as you want, really, but to talk through, to set your goals, to have us connect you with mentors. We call those connection services to connect you with other resources, a lot of whom are City of Tucson grant recipients that are working to support entrepreneurs as well. And so we do that, and then we do fundamentals quarterly, and that's the full series. And so we did the last fundamentals online or in person, but our labs are still online, and we're still seeing really strong attendance. So we're kind of experimenting with different things. We'll see what happens with the new variant. We hope that we can stay in person for certain things, but
yes, fingers crossed that we will all stay healthy or be able to combat what comes at us. And, I do think in some ways, the virtual options are in a way less intimidating, right? Especially someone that's checking something out. They don't have to make that big commitment about the perfect thing, like to wear to this event, or what do I need? Do I need a business card? Do I need all these other things? No, you just need to show up, and to have a virtual option, I think, does remove some of that barrier. Again, with access to technology. And I think you addressed that too, that we're trying to make sure that people have the tools they need for your program. So that's great. So maybe now's a good time for each of you to talk about what you're up to, other things that you're doing to support business and community development in Tucson. I know, Liz, you touched on a variety of things. Danny, you've got some pretty innovative programs going on there in other areas. What other things are you all doing?
So we are actually working together with Startup Tucson on a lot of these things. And that includes we have a Black and Indigenous people of color community managed loan fund. So the BIPOC community managed loan fund, Startup Tucson is one of our founding partners with that. And what we're providing, we just had our first cohort of 16 BIPOC owned businesses. They are getting 0%, zero fee loans up to $10,000. So they're micro loans. CIC, we do a lot in the micro lending space. And we believe in what I said before, this idea of, these small investments have incredible returns on them. And I'm just going to throw out some stats for people. It's not from this cohort. They just got their money now, but we have seen in our portfolio, basically somebody who gets a $10,000 loan, 85% of them have seen an increase in their revenues. And that median increase is 129%. And so That's pretty amazing. That's that's roughly $104,000 in annual revenue. So you can see we are talking about smaller businesses. When that's your revenue, that's not the net revenue, that's the gross revenue. But these small infusions of capital are really important. And the BIPOC Community Managed Loan Fund, just to quickly tell you about it, it is to address some real issues that we have in our capital access system, where Black and Indigenous people of color, they have a much more difficult time getting loans. They often don't get the amount that they ask for. There are real wealth disparities that are part of this issue while we use in our society, in banking, what people would think are de facto prima facie, like colorblind objective data. The problem is that we have some real historic issues that are keeping our entrepreneurs of color from being able to access capital. And I will say, as I've said many times, I hate to tell you, but the innovation and all the good ideas, it's not with just rich white dudes from Harvard. They're from people of all races, and that's just not how the breakdown works. And we're leaving a lot of economic power on the sidelines. So in this case, the BIPOC Community Managed Loan Fund, a committee of BIPOC community members came up with the eligibility, came up with the application, are doing all the underwriting, and are making all the loan decisions. And so for my part and for CIC's part, we take a step back and just do administration for them. And so we've seen an incredible group. We had a happy hour with them. It's like the best happy hour I've spent recently. I wish I could take some of what people said, and if there was a way to take that and magnet it to my mom's refrigerator still, like when I was a kid, I would do that to prove that I'm up to good stuff for my mom. She could be proud of me. It's been great. So we've actually raised close to $300,000 now. We got a 3-year grant, and again, those multi-year grants from the Women's Foundation, and we're hopefully going to launch our second cohort here in the beginning of 2022. So that's something I'm super fired up about. And Liz and Kenesha Raymond, who works with Startup Tucson, she's on our committee, and they are important partners in that.
That's awesome. And to hear, I'm sure that energy and that passion and excitement around what those folks have been able to accomplish with the program that you put forward, I think is awesome. And I mean, can you say, is it for some, is it their first loan? Is it also, I mean, what are you seeing?
For many, it's their first loan. The committee came up with the idea. They didn't want it. It can be people who are brand new versus those who have been in business for 10 years. And for several, and at our happy hour, we had people just introduce themselves to tell everyone, what their business was. And the stories were oftentimes around that, nobody would, part of the biggest thing that we are hearing is it feels so good that somebody trusts us, that somebody will invest in us, that somebody believes in us. And because people have been turned down, a lot of those people have tried to get funding in a different way and been turned down. The way that we do it, which is people will be like, you guys are nuts. And I was like, well, I'm a little bit nuts. But we basically decide on the story first. And then if the committee decides that they want to give a loan, then we as CIC start working through all the financial stuff. So we do it in reverse order of what a bank does. And we still work on the financials and all those things to get them squared away. But the group is saying yes, and we don't really say no. We try to say not just yet, but hopefully in the future when somebody doesn't, have everything that they need. And that's how we're working to build trust in a space where lived experience is really different for people of color with financial institutions.
Right. Well, you want them to be successful, right? So you're probably right sizing everything as well so that they can be. I mean, I think there's been a fear maybe on the part of some about going into debt of any kind. Do you see that as well? And you're able to provide support there?
So one of the things we did a lot, we did 9 months of planning before even launching this and coming up with it. And what we heard from the committee, and this was a learning experience for much of my staff, including myself, who was in on all those meetings, was to say, debt is different in our family, in our community. And again, I am not a person of color. I wouldn't know that, but debt in a lot of cases, they were very fearful of debt. Debt wasn't seen as a tool, it was seen as a burden. When you went into debt, it meant that things were going really badly and you tried to stay out of it, not seeing how it can actually be a tool to business growth, to opportunity, some of those things. So it is working in that sort of through a different lens. There's unlearning to be done kind of on every side. And I think that's been the part that's been very exciting and quite honestly, like fulfilling for me is I've learned a lot of things too. I've make mistakes. As I say sometimes, like if you have the grove of lemons that I generally have when I'm doing work, you have to be able to make lemonade out of them. And this is what we've been good at is trying to like find different ways to do things, because what we've done in the past, we can't keep doing the same thing. We can't expect our banks and banking institutions, they're profit motivated. I don't blame them for that. We can't expect them to change to help our BIPOC entrepreneurs. So that's what we're doing. We're trying to do it as a community ourselves.
Well, I applaud that. And I think that it's efforts like what you're doing that does push the rest of the community, right? Whether it is the lending community and a more traditional banking environment or whoever, it forces all of us to think differently and to look at this process differently. So I think that's great. So thanks for that. Liz, what else are you working on? What's big for 2022? What are we going to see out of Startup Tucson?
Oh man, that's a long question. So we are working on, we have a sprint challenge grant with the EDA. So we are supporting entrepreneurs in building the e-commerce sides of their business, in addition to prototyping and launching new products. So here at our offices at Arizona Forge, we have a prototyping studio with 3D printers and laser cutters and everything you'd need to do prototyping and product development. We also have a media lab that allows you to do product photography, videos, content creation, and we have master classes that go with both of those. That's a free program funded by a federal grant. And so that's for companies that are not just starting, but are a little bit further along and are looking to add some sources of revenue. So whether that's more sales online or adding a new product to increase the types of revenue that's coming in. So we have that program that's online right now. We are doing a lot of new programming that's been specifically tailored for food entrepreneurs to support the growth of our city of gastronomy. So we just finished our food accelerator and graduated 15 new food companies here in Tucson, which is super exciting. We're building websites for those folks, food entrepreneurs. If you know any food entrepreneurs that need an e-commerce website, we're helping support with that. We just did another round of remote Tucson with the city, which is super fun. So we'll be selecting our candidates and inviting 20 new remote workers to join us here in Tucson this coming January. Double the first year of programming, which is very exciting. We got a partnership with Danny. We have another EDA grant that's a capital challenge grant. And so this one is really working on that access to capital and the capital pipeline here in Tucson. But this one is interesting because it's on the investor side. So as Danny has worked really hard to bring these new tools to Tucson, Kiva and WeFunder and some of these different types of funding sources that allow other types of capital than traditional loans. We need investors to invest in them. And Danny and I have a vision that those investors could be local and come from our own community of people that want to invest in local businesses and just haven't been able to yet or don't know how or just haven't been presented with the opportunity. And so under this new grant, we'll be doing investor training for anybody that's interested in learning more about that process, the risks that are associated in investing your own money, but also the rewards and the stories and everything that comes through impact investing. And so we'll be doing a number of trainings there. What we're excited about with that is that there's funding to bring in some thought leadership from outside of Tucson. So our investor community is pretty small, and we're hoping that we can bring in some BIPOC investors, some international investors, some people that are a lot more comfortable with a lot of these kind of new lending and investing tools that can really shed some light for our community on how we can better use them to support our diverse entrepreneurs. I'm sure that there's other things, but I'm gonna stop there.
But you made me think about that, like the diversity of the investor pool should reflect the diversity of our community.
Of the community, and it currently does not.
Yeah, and that will help.
Not all day.
It will help.
That affects entrepreneurs' ability, their comfort level to pitch in front of different groups. Those groups' perceptions of the types of businesses that they're building. We have a really active angel investing community here, but they tend to like a certain type of company. And that's not necessarily their fault, but it's because that's the companies that they're most familiar with. If we diversify our investor pool and more of those companies are more familiar with different types of entrepreneurs, different types of products, we can really diversify access to capital. So I think our big theme for 2022 is access to capital, right, Danny? And everything that goes along that. I think our ecosystem has developed a lot in terms of support for entrepreneurship. So we have a lot of different training programs at different levels. The university has brought a lot of new things online that are open to the community, which wasn't necessarily the case before. We have, new people at YWCA and new people at SBDC, and we have a bunch of great stuff on the support side. But if those entrepreneurs can't get the funding they need, they can only ever get so far with educational services. Right. So I think that's one of the things that we've been working on more recently. And I think one of the other things that's nice about the city's funding of all these different types of programs is that it's allowed all of us to work better together. So Danny and I pass people back and forth, but not just us. We make sure that that entrepreneurs come through the programming that they need when they need it, and that they're having access to all the different resources that the community has to offer.
Yeah, I think it speaks to relationships, right? I mean, people will do business with people that they identify with oftentimes. So the more we diversify and we provide that diversification in these important real ways to support small business, I think the better off those businesses will be. So kudos to you all for doing what you're doing. And keep at it, because it's really gonna help us all, and it really makes it fun too. I just appreciate the way we all work together. I'm excited for what's to come. Amanda, I'm gonna call on you to, share again what everyone can expect in 2022 as we roll our next call for grant applications out.
Yes, so look for a notice of funding availability in February. That will be open until mid-April. That is for a 2-year cycle for special events and workforce development programs. Great. So everyone has time to be thinking, and they've heard some inspiring stories. So now they can think about how that might impact something they can bring forward. So we'll continue to shed light and spotlight the success stories that are coming out of our grantees. It's really the fun part of what we get to do is witness all these great things. I also just want to have a special shout out to any of our members of our Economic and Workforce Development Selection Committee who might be listening in. I appreciate each one of them and the difficult task they have with assisting us in the process. They do an outstanding job of keeping it fair and equitable as they review very seriously all the applications that come through our program. So that does ensure that it's successful year after year. So I know our mayor and council are very proud of this program and happy to see it continue. And actually, another piece of good news is the funding pool for the new round. Because of our ARPA dollars, the American Rescue Plan will help us add another $150,000 a year. So our total access will be $750,000 in our pool of funding. Again, just helps us do more. We still, we want that competitive process because we also still know that brings out the best in our organizations and the programs that they devise. So I do hope that we see some great applications come across our way next year. So thank you all for being part of our afternoon today as we wrap up our series
for this year. We're going to let everybody take a break in December, and we'll come back with something new when 2022 starts. So we'll wrap up our time. So thanks again, Danny, Liz, Amanda, for being here today. And for everyone, keep connecting with us. You can still call our City of Tucson Economic Initiative Small Business Assistance Line at 520-837-4100. You can also visit connecttucson.com to learn about all the resources that we have. Many of these organizations are listed there. You can also sign up for our email newsletters and updates so that you won't miss a thing when we come into the new year. So have a great afternoon and happy holidays. Thanks all.
Thanks, Amanda.